Welcome, everybody. John Zager. How is everyone today? Friday. Yay, Friday. I think it's afternoon here in Colorado. Let me see here. Yeah, 1:18. It's hot. It's climbing up. We've been in the mid 90s every day. No rain. I think it's 90 or 91 right now. And of course, we're headed back up to 96 as usual. But the nice part is we got pretty heavy clouds rolling in right now. And all of next week it's supposed to rain. We'll see if that happens. But so I'm excited about that. I'm in my truck as usual, and because it's so hot, I have the air conditioner running and the fan on low. I'm probably sure you guys are hearing the fan. Hope not, but we'll evaluate that later on and see how bad it was. And if it was, I'll just try to not use it again the next time. But I think we're fine. I think we'll be fine. I got different earbuds on, so they should be better as well. Today I don't know, it's just kind of, I did a blog on it this morning, and I actually did some pretty good research and put some of that information in my blog, jzager@blogspot.com. Please go read it. It was really good. But not neuroplasticity, but neuroscience, and why is it so important? What does it do, and all that kind of stuff. There's kind of a bunch of different information I want to touch on. So neuroscience, as you guys all know, has to do with the brain. And how it affects and interacts with the nervous system, right? So we have the different parts of the brain that have to do with the emotions and intellect and just regular, like the neocortex and just dealing with everyday issues and interacting with people and stuff like that. You guys can all go look that stuff up, or you already know it anyway. And the nervous system, which is kind of interesting in that, for simplicity, we'll think in terms of it just runs down the spinal cord from the brain, sending electrical impulses down to different parts of the body that cause the body to do different things. We'll just keep it at that. And that's kind of cool. And then it goes on to talk about, what affects that. Nature, nurture. And again, I'm speaking to an audience of some pretty educated people, but nature, of course, is the genetic side that goes into the brain, and then the brain sends out the impulses, to the nervous system. Genetically, that's all one side. Nature, nurture. The other part that can impact the brain is the nurture side, which is environment, beliefs, perceptions. And that's kind of the stuff we've been talking about for quite a long time. So the nurture part is, think in terms of the brain and how it functions, is based on genetics. And again, we know that that's a pretty minute little amount. And environment, we're just going to generalize all that as environment. And it can actually get down to, the research in the article I put in this morning, which you need to go read. But, it just talks about, your diet is environment, so to speak, and how it impacts the brain and how that impacts the nervous system. Weight gain, all the chemicals that we're exposed to, how that impacts the brain and thusly impacts the nervous system. It's just everything around us. Then it goes into, the moods, anger and bitterness and hate and just, all of the negative emotions, depression, sadness, irritability, frustration, jealousy, the negative stuff. All of that impacts the brain and then thusly impacts the nervous system, neuroscience. The good stuff, let's not just look at the bad stuff, but we have joy and love and compassion, and nurturance. All of those feelings and emotions, they call them chemicals, of course, but, the chemicals produce an emotion. All of those impact the brain and how it works, which in turn impacts the nervous system. Fascinating. I have green tea today on ice in my thermos mug. Boy, is this good today on a hot day. I think I'm going to switch over from coffee to cold, iced green tea. It doesn't have anything to do with the neuroscience, just sidebar. Okay, so all of that stuff's pretty interesting, yeah? Neuroplasticity. Let's just throw that in the mix. Our brains have more, let me say the word correctly, plasticity than previously thought. Scientists, neuroscientists, neurophysiologists, neuroendocrinologists, all of these various people that work in the sciences in relation to the brain. And again, this is in the blog, and again, I put in some really good research this morning. So I'm not a scientist, nor am I a doctor. So I'm explaining things as a layperson that happened to work in psychology for 43 years. So you really need to read the science that I put in there, but I'm making my best attempt at getting this correct. So previously, the scientists could not see a need for neuroscience. There was psychology, and there's also a neuropsychology, by the way. There was psychology, and then there were scientists that studied the brain, and scientists that studied the nervous system. But they've never mixed the two together because they thought neuroplasticity was only in young people. That the brain has the ability to alter its structure to improve and heal and restore the brain back to normal. Right? And now, with all of this research in neuroscience, right, which we're talking about today, what's the importance of neuroscience, they've now got evidence, and this is old evidence, this isn't like within the last year or two, but there's now real clearly defined evidence that as you get older and you become a senior, and even up in your years, your brain still has neuroplasticity. I think they just call it plasticity. It has the ability to restructure itself to heal. Yeah, that's a good way to say that. It has the ability to restructure itself in order to heal, even later on in life. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So, I've been trying to work through this the last few days, and I've been spending a fair amount of time doing additional research on this the last few days. But so how do you take the neuroscience and connect it to self-healing? So all of you guys that have been listening for months and months on end have the answer as well as I do. You know, there's nature, nurture. There's things that are genetic that have impacted the brain and the cells, right? And the genes, right? And the neurons and the transmitters, the synaptic transmitters. So all of that stuff is done on two parts, two levels. Nature, nurture. Through genetics, okay? All of that stuff is impacted. And through the environment. Remember, we kind of bulked that all together for this conversation. But through the environment, all of those things are impacted that can alter your health. So neuroscience is directly related to, being able to self-heal, improve your health. It goes on to say in the research, in the science that I was reading anyway, that you have the ability to, and again, they're using the tool of meditation, and that's just another whole area, right, but of discussion. But, through certain tools that they give you in neuroscience at your disposal, your body can learn how to upregulate and downregulate those genes through the impact of the environment. Let me say that one more time. This is really, really important. The clarity is, everybody used to think genetically that's how the genes were upregulated or downregulated, period. And then they found out that through the environment, genes, and again, understand the basics of Genes 101, they turn on, they turn off kind of idea. And they can be turned on or turned off based on the environment and the impact of the environment, through thoughts, through your thinking, yeah? Through your belief system, through your perceptions, through all of the things that go on in our environment. The majority of time, again, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a doctor. I just have to keep saying that over and over again. But I'm trying to explain in layman's terms, as I understand, that disease, right, that's ultimately what we're talking about, can be regulated, it sounds like up to 90% of the time, by the environment side, and a very small percentage, And I'm not real clear of that exact percentage because it depends on who you're talking to, and then it depends on, what aspect of it you're talking about. But a small percentage is genetic. I have even heard it said less than 1%. I have heard 0.4, right, percent that the genes are impacted genetically. I'm not sure. I see different numbers. I've heard it from less than 5 to 0.4. So the majority neuroscience is what we're talking about. What's the importance of neuroscience? Why do we study neuroscience? How is neuroscience going to benefit us? Old school, old thought was way back with there is no neuroplasticity in the brain as you get older in life. And it can't restructure itself back to health. Old school, old thought was for a long time. We don't have the ability to control and regulate diseased genes. New science, new research, new study clearly indicates, we'll just say 90% of the time, environment upregulates and downregulates genes, both good and bad. Gosh darn it, I wish I had that article in front of me. I'm going to get this for tomorrow. I apologize. I can't pull it out fast enough. I would pull it out of my iPad, but it would take me a little bit of time to do that. And Dr. Joe, he has a couple YouTubes where, I don't remember which ones, but he was just like right on with what he was saying. In his study, in his research, in his workshops that he does, and all the brain mapping that they do, and all of that kind of stuff, with the meditation, and what's the purpose of the meditation, and how does the meditation benefit self-healing. And it clearly, this is just amazing. He came up with, I think on his YouTube video, he came up with, it was either 8 or 10. And there were I think 25 total, but 8 or 10 genes that as a result of meditation, now you got to understand it isn't just, relax and think of butterflies flying around kind of meditation, but, in-depth meditation where you're going from alpha to theta. You might even get into gamma, right? I'm just going to say this part because I'm fairly accurate with this, but there were 8 very specific genes that quality of meditation upregulated that would be like, how would I explain a couple of them? They prevent disease. They're disease blockers. Follow me on that? They're disease blockers. And I am going to pull, I mean, I've got a picture of it right in front of me here in my head, and I just can't recall the exact names because they're these long scientific terms of each specific gene that he identified. His team of researchers clearly found these genes upregulated into people doing this kind of meditation. And they prevent disease from entering your body. I'm saying this in a layman's term. I mean, go get a doctor if you want to hear it said in a more sophisticated manner. I don't know all that stuff. And it goes on to say that particular genes that create or transmit the diseases in you are downregulated as a result of that level of meditation. You know, that's the tool they use. Neuroscience. Brain, nervous system. How does the brain send the electrical pulses out down the spine to the various parts of the body, possibly to upregulate disease or downregulate disease? Phenomenal. Neuroscience. Neuroscience. Psychology, which I've done my entire life, forever and ever and ever. I love it. And it was beneficial. And I'm not sure that's where we need to go anymore. I mean, I would guess there's a lot of psychologists out there struggling to argue against neuroscience. The ones that I would be talking to are the ones that want to be a part of neuroscience. Actually, they've identified themselves as neuropsychology. It's a term not used until, I don't know, maybe more recent years or so. And those are the people. And I've talked to you guys about this, you know. If you need to go find, if you're not wanting to do coaching, quote unquote, and you want to do counseling, quote unquote, go find some psychologist that is also equally involved in neuroscience. You just cannot do psychology, in my estimation, alone anymore. Psychotherapy, I've been in this business my entire life. If the guy doesn't understand neuroscience, go out the door and don't look back. Just go find some psychologist that is also into neuroscience. Huge, 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 huge. How long have we been going here? Okay. So, anyway, that's kind of the podcast for today. I think it's big. I think it's big, and I need to spend probably a lot more time on it than I do. And I'm going to. I'm gonna get deeper into some of this research and get some of these articles instead of me writing blogs and stuff like that. I'm gonna start putting scientific research on my blog. I mean, I read the stuff and then I interpret it and then I put it on my blog, right? I might just start copying some of this research that's not real lengthy and put it in there. And if it needs to have some clarity as a layman, then I might put some verbiage in there to follow it. But boy, you guys, read those blogs. read the blogs, jzager at blogspot.com. These podcasts, Spreaker.com. I guess it would be /user/John Zager. You can get to every single podcast I've ever done. My podcasts are good. They're from the perspective of someone who's been doing counseling for 43 years. That's what you get. If you want a podcast from a medical doctor, go to one of them. If you want a podcast from a scientist, go to one of them. I think mine are excellent. And I hope you guys go back and listen to all of them. They all have important stuff to do. You know, we're doing great work. We're doing great work. This meditation group I'm trying to... When I was out in California last winter, I started a meditation group, and I wasn't around there, I don't know, 4.5 or 5 months, I guess I was out there. But I'm here, and it's the same kind of situation, you know. We need to get this group up and running to do our research. There isn't anything to say we can't alter change in people ourselves. You don't have to be a Dr. Joe or a Dr. Bruce Lipton. You don't have to walk on water to create the same kind of change. I don't believe that. I think we can create the change and the healing in people as well as anybody else. There's people who didn't even know of Dr. Joe that were doing meditation groups. What's her name? Lynn Taggart? I think she's a mastered level therapist over in England. I heard she died last fall, but what do I know? She did The Power of 8. That was her book. Go read her book, The Power of 8. She would get a workshop, and she's over in Europe. She's not hooked up with Dr. Joe and what he's doing. I mean, they're friends, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, she's there, he's here. And she was taking her groups, her workshops. I don't know how many she got in her workshops, but she broke them down into groups of 8, and then she was doing meditation and healing with that group. And she was getting those genes to upregulate and downregulate. She's no scientist. She's no doctor. There's other people just like her that are out there doing amazing, incredible work. I've seen it happen myself in my own practice. So where I'm going with all this is that if you're listening to this, contact me. Ask me questions. Call me up. Email me. Text me. Let's talk. Let's get together and talk. If you have stuff going on health-wise, all this is an adjunct. Nobody's trying to change your medical treatment or discourage you from the medical procedures and following the doctor's orders. Has nothing to do with any of that. It's just real simple stuff. Adjunct therapy. In addition to whatever you're doing with it, whatever doctor or therapist, I don't even care, right? Maybe some meditative practices could may be beneficial for you. And you may find some genes and cells moving around for the better. Hope you guys all have a good day. I'm excited. Boy, the clouds are moving in, and I just hope it pours. I don't think I'll be that lucky, but I hope it does pour anyway for the next week. It's been hot around here. So God bless everybody. Take care of one another, and I look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Thank you. Bye.